All right, House of Payne fans, hope everybody's doing well on this fantastic Friday. It's a bit dreary around here, which hopefully doesn't resonate with the subject of this video, but I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers at all, but I just feel like, based on this week's episode as well as last week's episode and, well, the upcoming episode, I feel like things are going to be pointed in the direction of a Miranda and Calvin reconciliation. I just feel like we're going to be in a situation where Calvin and Laura, for whatever reason, one reason or another, they're going to wind up breaking up, calling off the engagement/wedding. And then Calvin and Miranda are going to get back together. What I hope doesn't happen, but to be completely honest, I think this is what will happen. We're going to make it all the way to the altar. We're going to see Calvin and Laura on their wedding day. And during the vows or something, I don't know which is going to happen, but how this will play out. But I think that the wedding is going to crash. Miranda's going to show up. Either she's going to crash it herself, or perhaps she's there in attendance. I mean, based off how things have been going lately, it seems like Calvin and Miranda are on much better terms now than they were, in season 9, as well as certain parts of season 10. But of course, Laura and Miranda are still on shaky ground, that is. But overall, last week's episode, you had these two going back and forth about the whole LD, aka Laura days, because Laura was the one who came up with the schedule for how co-parenting could be efficient. And before she knew it was a Laura plan, Miranda was actually pretty impressed with Calvin. She liked the way it was broken down, but then when he slipped up and said, "Oh, LD is Laura days, the schedule was her idea," Miranda freaked out. But then she listened a little bit and then freaked out again because, to be honest, based off how Calvin was talking to Miranda, but to be fair, he was kind of matching Miranda's energy. It felt like her parenting style was being attacked. So, you move into the end of the episode. They both apologize to each other. Miranda, I always care about you, I always love you, and this and that, mainly due to the whole being the mother of their child together. They pretty much, make amends. We get to this week's episode. It's the whole thing about Miranda being on an online app, and she gets these chirps. I guess that's like the equivalent of dings, pings, tweets, whatever you want to call it. And at the end of the episode, for whatever reason, Calvin gets a chirp on his phone, being a match for Miranda, because even Laura points out the fact that Miranda, all these guys you're like describing, you're filtering and whatnot, and what you say you're looking for, they're pretty much carbon copies of Calvin. That's what you're looking for. And I'm still trying to wrap my mind around how Calvin even got the notification, because look, I've only been on an online dating site once. What was it? Christian Mingle. I only did it because my roommate and friends for years like, "Jeremy, try it out. Try online dating." That isn't my thing. Here's my thing, though, on online dating. I'm not judging those who have done it. I have friends who have actually met their spouses on online apps and websites, and they've gotten married and whatnot. But the thing is, it's too expensive. Because I checked, because I was under the impression you would pay per month. Like, you know what, I might try this for like 2 months, and if things don't work out, then I'm like, I'll cancel my account. But when I created a profile, because I think Christian Mingle was like, "Hey, here are 500 questions, like a 500 questionnaire." It's like, the more questions you complete, the more likely you'll be able to find somebody that's a match. I'm like, fine. So I spent hours filling out this damn thing. By the time I got to the end and I had to pay a subscription, I'm like, okay, they got 3 different options, but where's the one that's like maybe 1 month, 2 months? No, they want you to pay for like 6 months, 12 months, 24 months up front. I'm like, I'm not paying hundreds of dollars up front when dates and everything, I'm the guy, I'm traditional, I'm an old fashioned kind of guy. I'll, pay for the date and everything like that. No questions asked, but I decided not to do it. So I'm just saying, if I did create a website or a profile on one of these apps or websites, I found somebody, we dated, we got engaged, and we're about to get married. I'm pretty dang sure the moment I got down on one knee, or even before I decided I was going to propose to this person, I would have shut down my account, deleted my profile or whatever, in order to commit myself to her. So the fact that Calvin still got the ding, I'm just sitting there wondering, like, what the heck is going on here? Why is he getting a ping or chirp, and he's supposed to be engaged to Laura? And I know that Miranda said the same thing about Lisa when she walked into the kitchen and saw her kind of swiping. But, Lisa made it clear, oh, no, I ain't looking for no love. I'm just on my phone because Malik is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. So I just do not understand why the writing was the way it was. And I double checked. Tyler Perry was not the writer or producer on these episodes. Now, I don't know exactly how involved he is in House of Payne and assisted living anymore, because most of these episodes for their current seasons on BET, they have not been written or directed by Tyler Perry. I think maybe, that one episode where Lisa and Malik were just really on the outs, like they really were at each other's throats the entire episode. The one where Lisa says that she's lived with 3 of her ex-boyfriends and things like that. And that was an episode written by Tyler Perry, which pretty much derailed all the development these two had all season. Now, if this was an episode by Tyler Perry, I would have been like, yeah, it makes sense, because Tyler just, is nonsensical. But this episode was written by a person who's been been credited for writing most of the season, so I don't know what's going on. I'm guessing, did Tyler have a list of notes or bullet points like, hey, I'm handing over the reins to you all this season, but here are the major things that I want you to do and things I don't want you to do as you write and produce this season of the show. I wonder if Miranda and Calvin are in game. Are they eventually going to reconcile and get back together? Because it seems like they're really building up this, each episode, it's like Miranda and Calvin seem to be getting better in their dynamic, their relationship. But then at the very end or close to the end of the episode, it's like there's still a spark between the two or whatever. And let me just say this, when Calvin got that chirp on his phone, he did not look too happy. He's like, really, Miranda? But I'm not mad at Miranda because she can't control it, because she was sitting on the couch. She was talking to Miss Ella, Lisa. Everybody was happy. She's moving on, and the class reunion CJ went great. Calvin went in the kitchen, and then she got a chirp saying, oh, wait, I got another match. Wait, is somebody in this vicinity? And then he looked at his phone, and I'm like, wait, what? My question is this. Does Laura have an online profile now that she's engaged to Calvin? How would she feel if she knew that Calvin still had a profile on one of these apps? Would it feel like, almost like insurance where, yeah, if things don't work out with Laura, at least I know I can still, go on here and find a hookup or find another woman. So I feel like this was awful writing. The only way I let it slide is if, let's say, he did have an online profile. Maybe that's how he met Laura. I don't know. Maybe that's how he met her. And, he just never deleted the profile. Then that makes sense, but I just feel like it's way too forced. Now, going to the whole wedding day scenario, I would hate for it to, be broken up because, let's say, Laura figures out that, Calvin still loves Miranda so much. So when they're about to say the vows and whatnot, or somebody's like, if anyone objects, because, I've heard over the past few years, especially during the internet age, with people trying to do crap to go viral, there aren't many weddings that still allow that phrase, due to the fact that more often than not, people jump up, I object, just for the sake of recording the video and then posting online, so people avoid that at all costs now. But really, look at this upcoming episode, A Little Discipline, where Miranda and Laura go at it. And it seems like the scenario is Laura is left with Christian alone for the first time, and things don't go well. So disciplinary action takes place. Miranda freaks out, and a fight between these two might go down. It could be one of those situations where Laura is going to be written to be, shown as insufferable. And as a result, it's going to cause friction between her and Miranda, which is already, of course, on thin ice as it is. And then it's almost like we're going to see how terrible Laura is just to show how better Miranda is for Calvin in comparison. And I think that's an awful thing, especially since we've barely seen Laura and Calvin together as it is. I mean, we had that one episode where he tries to show that he's a better man now than he was when he was married to Miranda, and how he's going to be even better with Laura than he was with Miranda. And Laura, it was a sweet episode. But when you look at this particular scenario, I just feel like each time Laura shows up, we're just showing her in a bad light. Like, oh wow, she's really by the book, she has her own way of doing things, and I don't know if Calvin's going to mesh with that. But when you think about it, Calvin's been really open and receptive to what Laura had to say. And it really shows that no two people are alike. Nobody does things the exact same way. It's just, I feel like as time goes on, depending on how the rest of this season goes on, leading into next season, it really depends on how many times we see Laura, if we see her brought up, how many Calvin Miranda focus episodes there are. There might be a situation where either Laura begins to see that Calvin and Miranda are still close, like at the game night when Miranda just decided to intrude and, take all those low blows to Laura by reminding her of all the history that she has with Calvin during like the trivia game. And as a result, I think Laura might leave Calvin at the altar, or, maybe even Calvin stops the wedding to say, I still love Miranda, I'm sorry, Laura. And then they get remarried on the spot. I've seen a lot of people say if they put Calvin and Miranda back together, they're going to quit the show. And I can definitely understand why, because they're awful together. They really, really are. I mean, it's hard to tell what's worse, this scenario on House of Payne, or Zatima, Zach and Fatima being broken up for Zach to go back to Karen and sisters. And I mean, could this be done on purpose, where maybe Tyler saw, hey, look, on Sisters, the whole Zach, Fatima, Karen triangle is a big deal and it's been getting so many ratings. So I want you to do a similar thing on House of Payne, where Laura is kind of the new Fatima. And, of course, Miranda is Karen. And then we'll have the show written out, or excuse me, playing out, where those two will have to go through some friction together, which I really hate, because Miranda was actually really good during the first major portion of the season, of this current season of the show. But now we're getting her being insufferable again. But on top of that, in recent episodes, when she's been flipping out, even I've mentioned in my reviews, I actually agree with Miranda, or at the very least, from her perspective, I can see why she's flipping out the way she is. Like in the upcoming episode, hey, Laura, Christian is my baby and it's Calvin's baby. You have no right to put hands on him. Or, hey, Laura, this is a co-parenting thing between Calvin and myself. This has nothing to do with you. And Floyd even said, don't bring up your new woman to your old woman. So I really feel like the more Calvin is like Zach, telling Miranda, look, I still love you and all, but I'm not in love with you. I'm in love with somebody else. I want to be with somebody else. We're not good for each other. The more it's going to be like, oh, we're going to have these two getting back together. I mean, at least with CJ and Janine in the original series, when they, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they get remarried at Calvin and Miranda's wedding? So it was like a double wedding out of nowhere. I feel like that was better written than what's going on with the potential remarriage of Calvin and Miranda. But that's just my 2 cents. Like I said before, I would hate to get all the way to the wedding, and then it's a situation where Calvin admits that he still loves Laura, or Laura's like, Calvin, I can't marry you because I can tell you're still in love with Miranda. And it's just going to be dumb, because you literally just wrote Laura into the series to be Calvin's new love interest, who gets pretty much sidelined or railroaded just for the sake of bringing Calvin and Miranda back together. Now, if it was better written, well paced in season 9, I would buy it. But if you look at how Miranda was portrayed to be in season 9, she was completely awful. what kind of lesson is that teaching? Like, yeah, the more you pretty much, she pretty much was Nikki Parker, Steve Urkel. She was like Nikki Parker to Professor Ovalby, Steve Urkel to Laura Winslow, and, you know, a list of other characters who, well, let's be honest here, resorted to stalking, sabotage, whatever it took to get their man, to get their woman, even if they were in a relationship, a happy relationship with someone else. So in my opinion, I think putting Calvin and Miranda back together would be an awful decision for the show. It would turn a lot of people away from the BET rendition of House of Payne. I've had people say, look, I haven't watched the reboot, or I am watching the reboot, but if they put Calvin and Miranda back together, I'm done with it. It just seems like there's a lot of mismatching going on here. It's like maybe I wish I knew what the writers' room discussions were for House of Payne. And yes, House of Payne, Assisted Living, Young Dylan, those are Tyler Perry shows that have different writers and producers and whatnot. Because remember, he's slowly going to start doing that for more of his shows, and trust and believe me, he really does need that. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. If Calvin and Miranda get back together, will you quit watching the new BET version of House of Payne? Do you think these two will get put back together? Or do you think Laura is the end game for Calvin? Like, he's really going to go through getting married to her? Heaven forbid these two get married and then divorce. I do not want to go through another Calvin being dragged to divorce court thing all over again. That's just no. But thanks so much for tuning in. Let's talk about it more in the comment section below. You know the drill. Hit the thumbs up button to show you like the video. Hit subscribe as we move closer to 200,000 subscribers. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. Hit the bell icon and select all. That way you don't miss out whenever I post content on the channel. And if you would like to donate, feel free to do so on PayPal or Cash App.